Imagine this: a mother and her daughter step into an elevator, the doors close, and from that moment on, they're never seen again. No trace, no explanation. In a building filled with cameras, how could this happen? Today, we'll explore one of Taiwan's most mysterious and talked about disappearances. It all happened in the city of Yuanlin, Taiwan. The woman's name was Liu Huijun. At the time of her disappearance, she was 37 years old. She lived in the town of Shetou with her husband and 3 children, 2 daughters, and a son. Liu was born into a family with limited means. In her youth, she was a bright and independent girl admired by many. She worked as a hairdresser in Taipei and seemed destined for a promising future. However, due to family expectations, she returned to her hometown where her parents had arranged a marriage for her. Although her husband was financially stable, their relationship soon faced difficulties. Liu's family life became increasingly strained. Her husband was often away from home, and arguments and misunderstandings became more frequent. According to those close to her, alcohol appeared in the house more often, and Liu herself felt increasingly lonely and lost. There were rumors of betrayal in their marriage, which only deepened her inner pain. All of this gradually eroded the atmosphere of trust and safety, making Liu's life unbearable and pushing her toward desperate actions. In their small, traditional town, separation was seen as shameful, so she stayed, hoping things would change. When she finally spoke of leaving, her husband promised to turn things around. Wanting to believe him, she gave their marriage another chance. Not long after, they had a daughter. She's the one who will play a key role in our story from now on. But the promises didn't last. The emotional distance returned, and Liu found herself once again feeling isolated and alone, facing challenging life circumstances. In the days leading up to her disappearance, Liu appeared noticeably tired and seemed to be under significant emotional stress. On the evening of January 19th, 2008, just one day before she went missing, tensions at home rose once again. Then on January 20th, around 2 or 3 in the afternoon, Liu suddenly gathered her children, got on a scooter, and left home. She first stopped by her parents' house, which was only a few minutes away, but stayed only briefly before leaving. Later, her parents would wish they had paid more attention to her that day. That evening, Liu left her older children with her parents and took only her youngest daughter with her. Around 8 in the evening, she unexpectedly arrived at the Yuanlin Financial Building, a mixed-use office and residential building about 7 kilometers from her hometown of Shetou. The reason for her visit to this building remains unclear, as none of her relatives or friends knew of any acquaintances she had in that city. A bit later, around 9 o'clock, Liu entered the building. She was walking quickly, holding her daughter close and looking around as if she felt uneasy. A teenage girl at the entrance happened to notice her. Although the security guard had already left for the day, a building administrator reportedly saw Liu as she entered. When asked where she was going, she briefly replied that she was visiting a friend and hurried past. Liu went straight to the elevator. After 9 in the evening, a special access card was required to use the elevators. But she managed to get inside, just minutes before this restriction took effect. Inside the elevator, she pressed the button for her floor. Unexpectedly, she began removing their outerwear. She took off her own red jacket. She also removed her daughter's pink one along with their shoes. Then she neatly placed them on the floor. She was left in a light top, a vest, and pants. Her daughter wore a checkered sweater. Given that it was January and the weather was chilly, this behavior seemed unusual. Throughout this time, Liu kept glancing at the control panel as if she was waiting for something or keeping track of time. She moved quickly, her face tense and filled with urgency. But this is only the beginning of the strange events. When the elevator reached the 11th and final floor, she quickly picked up her daughter and stepped out. There were cameras on that floor, and the footage shows mother and daughter entering the stairwell. After that, there is nothing. No further camera footage. The mother and daughter simply disappear from view. But even though Liu reached the rooftop, there is no evidence to suggest that she ended her own life there. This detail is significant, as it leaves the circumstances of their disappearance unresolved. The following morning, security staff discovered the clothing and shoes that had been left behind. This prompted them to review the surveillance footage. To their surprise, despite the presence of numerous cameras, the most critical moments were not captured. The situation remained shrouded in uncertainty, as if the events themselves had been hidden from view. While the search for Liu and her daughter continued, her husband, unable to locate them, reached out to the police for assistance. 4 days later, authorities found a scooter abandoned near the building. The keys were still in the ignition. This discovery confirmed that Liu and her daughter had arrived at the building that night. Despite extensive efforts, no evidence or personal belongings were found. Their official documents were never used again. It was also established that Liu had not taken any identification bank cards or her phone, though she may have had some cash with her. The building where the disappearance happened had 11 floors, and back then, most of the residents were families with a high social status. But after what happened, the atmosphere in the building started to change. Rumors and superstitions began to spread, and some people even started thinking about selling their apartments and moving out. People started wondering where Liu could have gone inside the building that night. There weren't many ways out. The main entrance had constant surveillance, so it was unlikely anyone could just walk out unnoticed. The underground levels were too exposed, and some even speculated there might be a hidden passage, but nothing like that was ever found. The top floor of the building had a strange vibe, a temple on one side and quiet, empty apartments on the other. In that silence, no one noticed the disappearance. There were no cameras on the roof. The police searched it multiple times, but found nothing. They also checked the basement and talked to residents, but no one had seen or heard anything. Authorities spent a week going through footage from 13 surveillance cameras set up all over the building, but not a single frame showed Liu or her daughter leaving. The place had cameras, sure, but there were also blind spots like the fire escape stairwells and some technical rooms. Even so, the police checked every one of those areas thoroughly. The mystery of Liu and her daughter's disappearance is still unsolved, leaving behind nothing but questions, whispers, and a lingering unease that hangs over the building to this day. The investigation continued with police and family members checking apartments, starting from the 11th floor, the last place Liu was seen. Without a warrant, they could only question residents, but none recognized the missing woman or her daughter. Some people believed there was nothing unusual about the case. They suggested that Liu may have found an exit not covered by cameras. Others felt the security guard may have overreacted. They said that the presence of a single scooter was not enough to warrant police involvement. Despite these theories, the most likely scenario is that Liu and her daughter did leave the building at some point. However, the exact method remains unknown. All exits from the upper floors led either through the first floor or the 2 basement levels, both of which were monitored or considered difficult to use without being noticed. It is certain they didn't leave through the main entrance. It was the only door monitored by 4 cameras. That alone made it almost impossible to slip out unnoticed. On the first basement level, there was a billiard hall that was open at the time. One theory says the mother and daughter took a stairway down from the roof. It connected directly to that level, but there were no cameras at the stairwell exit, so it's impossible to know if they actually used it. Even if they did reach the billiard hall, another challenge awaited. The main exit from this area led to the street and was monitored by 2 cameras. Yet, neither camera recorded their departure. There was also a less obvious route inside a room with air conditioning equipment. There was a vertical emergency ladder. This ladder led directly to the rear of the building and wasn't covered by surveillance. If the woman and her daughter managed to leave unnoticed, this hidden ladder is considered the most likely path they could have taken. On the second basement level, there was only one exit to the outside. This exit was through a vehicle lift used exclusively by cars. For the mother and daughter to use this exit, they would have needed to hide in someone's vehicle and leave the parking garage without being seen. Another possible route involved emergency staircases on either side of the vehicle lift. These staircases led to the technical room with the air conditioners on the first basement level. From there, the same hidden ladder to the outside could be accessed, again without being seen by any cameras. However, if they use this exit, their next steps remain unknown. Detectives checked bank cards, medical insurance, and possible school registrations for the daughter. They searched across the entire country. Not a single card was used after the disappearance. The girl never appeared in any student database. This makes the theory of starting a new life under their real names unlikely. The police continued their investigation, especially after the case of Liu Huijun became widely known. The case of Elisa Lam also inspired a renewed search. Investigators recalled how Elisa's body was found in a water tank. They re-examined the building's water tanks and pipes years later, but they found no trace of Liu or her daughter. Residents never reported issues with water quality or unusual odors. This further ruled out the theory that the bodies were hidden in the building's plumbing. In the year 2021, investigators compared Liu's DNA to that of an unidentified body found elsewhere, but the analysis showed no match. This was one of the last official steps in the investigation. In the year 2023, the death of Liu's husband brought renewed attention to the case. He died in an accident falling from a rooftop, which shocked many. Following this, Taiwanese media reignited public interest. There were calls for a renewed investigation, but no progress was made. It is also important to note that Taiwan does not use Western-style garbage containers. Trash is only taken out when garbage trucks arrive. If anything unusual had been disposed of, neighbors would likely have noticed. This detail rules out several theories involving body disposal via garbage chutes. But now, imagine that everything was completely different from how it seems. Over time, several theories emerged to explain what happened. One theory suggests an escape to a lover. Liu's husband told local media he did not know anyone living in the building. Other family members said she had no acquaintances there. However, it is possible she had a secret relationship with someone in the building. Her youngest daughter was actually his child. This could explain why she only took her youngest daughter and left the older children with their father. If this theory is correct, she may have left her husband and sought help from her lover. But if this man had another family, he probably didn't want their relationship to come out, which could have led to a tragic ending. Still, there are doubts. The security guard did not recognize her. She had 3 children at home. Her husband often went out, making secret meetings difficult. There is no explanation why she removed her clothes in the elevator. Police found no evidence of a relationship with another man. If this was truly an escape, it is unclear why she would have left without her phone and documents. Another theory suggests a desperate escape from an abusive husband. All her actions might have been intended to confuse the police. Liu may have sought help from underground organizations that assist women escaping domestic violence. Some believe she could have hidden in one of the apartments and later been smuggled out, possibly with new identification. While this theory explains some aspects, it remains speculative and lacks concrete evidence. One unresolved question is why she never contacted her other children. But there's another theory that could change everything. An interesting detail is that both Liu and her daughter were wearing red jackets on the day they disappeared. In Taiwanese culture, the color red is traditionally considered a symbol of luck and well-being. However, some local residents began to speculate that the red clothing might have attracted the attention of spirits. Over time, the building where this story took place gained a reputation for being cursed. Its negative image significantly affected property values in the area. It is important to note that these interpretations reflect local cultural beliefs and superstitions. There is no scientific evidence to support such claims. Liu's relatives said her mental state was unstable. She may have been hallucinating, feeling watched, and believed her husband was after her. In panic, she took her daughter and hid in the building, trying to escape an imagined threat. If she was in a state of psychosis, her actions may not have made logical sense. Taking off her coat and shoes could have been an attempt to change her appearance. She might have gone to the top floor to confuse a pursuer. Then she could have taken the stairs down and found the emergency ladder. It's possible she escaped with her daughter that way. This could explain why she avoided cameras, but in that fear, she might have ended up somewhere dangerous with a tragic outcome for both. If you or someone you know is struggling mentally, don't face it alone. Reach out to a professional or call a support line. There is also a version that the woman and her child didn't just hide from the cameras by chance. According to this theory, someone helped them escape. Maybe Liu hid with her child in a huge bag or suitcase. And then someone took this suitcase out of the building. Also, in Asia at that time, wearing masks was normal, so no one would have been surprised. The woman and her child could have simply changed clothes, put on masks, and left. That's why some people believe this is exactly how they disappeared, simply and without a trace. Just keep in mind, this is only one possible explanation, and honestly, there's no real proof it happened that way. All theories offer plausible explanations for Liu's mysterious disappearance, but each has its own gaps and unanswered questions. In the end, there's been no evidence, no bodies, and no trace after more than 15 years. This leaves the case unsolved.